Hi y'all, it's Jade and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing a Love Island USA review, episodes 19 through 36. So if you're behind and you heard who won, but you really want to know how they got there, stick around and let's hop on in. Okay, so the last time I talked about this, we stopped at episode 18, so I'm gonna pick up with episode 19, which began with Casa Amor! Casa Amor! So if you've never watched Love Island, Casa Amor is the chance where you get to swap couples for a couple days and explore connections with new people. You get to see if your connection that you have in the villa is stronger and can outweigh any connection that you build in Casa Amor and vice versa. The men and the original women are split up into two and they bring in 10 new people for both the girls and the guys to flirt with. So in Casa Amor, everyone has a fresh shot. Things I noticed about bonds in Casa Amor was that Zach started to bond with Amaya, Coco decided to bond with Ace, Sierra bonds with Elan, which is interesting because Elan and Nick have some similarities, but Sierra is super into Nick, so it's interesting to see how that plays out. Taylor bonds with Clark, and Shelly bonds with Chris, who Huda also ends up bonding with later on. So something they did new in Casa Amor this year was a recoupling within it. So automatically when you came in, you were not with your original person anymore, and everyone had to scramble and find someone to couple up with, which led TJ and Amaya to be single originally. They had 24 hours to find someone to bond with or they would be dumped from the island. TJ ended up coupling up with Vanna, this girl who has had the most Botox I think I've ever seen in someone of my age. And Zach ends up bonding with Amaya. Now, unfortunately, this leaves both Nick and Olandria single and dumped from the island. Nick and Olandria are both in serious couples, both of their partners in opposite villas, so it's like their partners won't even know that they got sent home until, the Love Island gods and producers have something up their sleeves. Landria pulls up in a truck to come pick up Nick as Nick's heading out with his suitcase, saying, "Come on, get in!" And then the episode cuts off. So it seems as if even though they're dumped from the island, they're not dumped. Later on in the next episode, we see that Nick and Olandria have a choice. They have to couple up together, or they can both be sent home immediately. And so they do the obvious thing, which is couple up so they can stay together. But Nick reveals that he's always found Olandria beautiful. She's one of the most beautiful people he's ever seen. He says he's wanted to get to know her. And if you pay attention throughout the season, when there were blindfolded challenges or regular challenges, if there's an excuse to kiss Olandria, Nick will. And so they decide to couple up. They head into the villa as a new couple. Everyone is shocked to see them again, but of course Ace and Taylor are glad that the third member of the Musketeers is back. And Nick and Taylor share a kiss. I'm sure they have. Nick and Olandria share a kiss for the first time outside of a challenge. A hot one, a steamy one. It was looking like I should be watching. Then there is another Casa recoupling, but this is the big one. This is when everybody comes back from both Casa Amor and the villa, the new girls, the new Casa girls, the original girls, the new Casa boys, the original villa boys. Everyone is together under the same roof for this recoupling. Things that stood out: Taylor chose Clark over Olandria. He was so over Olandria and infatuated with Clark that he thought she was good enough to bring back into the villa and have her there amongst Olandria. And Chris and Shelly have a connection, but Ace and Shelly do come back to each other, but Huda decides to keep Chris. So now Chris has an opportunity to explore his connection with Huda, but also continue his connection with Shelly. And Ace is jealous of that, especially because that man is about 6'8" and 3 times the size of that mini musketeer. In the next episode is the heart rate challenge. This is one of my favorites every season. I would definitely be afraid to do this, but it is basically a strip tease. Everyone is wearing heart rate monitors. Everyone comes out in their couples in this silly little sexy outfit and tries to raise the heart rates of other people in the villa. It's a really fun, good time, but also if somebody doing a little too much, that can be a sign from God. So Shelly was super upset when Huda pulled Ace for her heart rate challenge. And I mean, because Huda and Chris are in a couple, Shelly got pulled too. Chris pulled Shelly and Huda pulled Ace. But Chris and Shelly made out on the floor. It was done. Huda and Ace? Oh, she was bang, bang, banging on that thing on top of Ace. They were basically having sex with clothes on. Right next to Shelly and Chris. Shelly and Chris were off the floor. It seemed like they were going for about 30 more minutes. And from what I've heard, production cut down on some of what I saw. But whatever it was, it had to be horrible because Shelly was so mad at Huda for a long time. She kept saying they had no friendship anymore. There was no respect. Yada, yada, yada. Huda didn't want nobody to be all on top of Jeremiah like that. Shelly respected her then. Everyone else had to respect Huda then. Where was Shelly's respect in that? Here's how I feel about it. I can understand maybe it's not fun seeing your friend throw that on top of a guy you're interested in, for sure. Especially when you know that guy had some interest in her at some point. At the same time, though, Shelly was still getting kissed on by Chris. She was still open to Chris. So I feel like Shelly lovers don't come for me because I'm a Shelly lover too. But I feel like it was equal. I feel like it was equal. Shelly may not have been busting it down on Chris like Huda was busting it down on Ace. But she was entertaining Chris. And Ace was upset about that. So I think it's like we're either both going to entertain people or we're both going to be locked in and closed off. And they had not reached that point yet. The next episode, in lieu of movie night, I guess, or the Twitter challenge, the Love Island producers created this new challenge called Stand on Business, where everyone had an opportunity to write a note about any or all of their fellow Islanders, signing it with their name or anonymously. A lot of people ended up telling people where it came from directly if they originally signed anonymously, but you know, Ace couldn't wait for this challenge because all he does is yap and sit with his legs 5 feet off the floor like a leprechaun. Amaya was in tears after all the men group attacked her. It started with one note about how she just moves really fast, and then things about her time with Ace came up, things about her time with Austin came up, things about her time with, who else was she with? A bunch of different people came up, and they didn't like how she would say babe, and it kind of weirded them out and things like that. But Brian, nice old Casa Amor boy, stands up for Amaya and is like, hey y'all, I'm Dominican too, and in Latino culture, like what we just do is we say babe, we say baby, even though it may not be meant like as extreme as you're thinking. She's saying it and it's not a big deal. And then thank God Brian came to her defense, because even freaking Zach, Miguel 2.0, one of Miguel's friends, he was a cute guy, but I don't like how he also dogpiled on top of Amaya. He was coupled up with Amaya, and then he was talking about how, the last few days I've told you, like, I felt like you're doing too much. I'm trying to use my British accent. I felt like you're doing too much, and it's consistent with everybody else, but it's like, Zach, okay, you're currently in a couple with her. You could have told her that at any point where the two of y'all were talking alone, and there were so many points where y'all were talking alone, but you chose to jump on top of it after Ace and Austin already brought her down, and you see her crying. Amaya is the most, she called herself a sensitive gangster in the villa, and you want to add to it, add salt to the injury? That made me lose all respect for him. I was immediately ready to see him go home. But like I said, Brian came to Amaya's rescue, and I really loved that. That blossomed a new connection. I think he had found her attractive before that, but I think really coming to her rescue when she was just in such a low, dark place really made the light shine on Brian for Amaya. Pepe exclaims that he misses Hannah. I think he asked a question to Sierra about how they came to the decision to send Hannah home when they had such a good connection. And Sierra's reasoning didn't make any sense. It was basically like, oh, well, Hannah got to explore two connections, one with Charlie and one with you, so, like, we think she was good here. But it is called Love Island, and the object of the game is for people to find people that they have connections with, and if they found connections after exploring, they should get to stay. But this season, a lot has gotten screwed up with people sending people who actually have connections home. Honestly, if you ask me, it all went downhill when Jeremiah and Hannah got sent home, for sure. But, you know, I'm not there. I'm not an islander. I can only influence a vote when America votes. That's all I can do. And so Pepe didn't like this reason because it didn't make no sense. Again, it comes up and he just talks about how he really misses Hannah. I mean, even Andrina is throwing herself at him because she thinks he's attractive, and he's like, nah, I'm good. Basically, if it ain't snowing or Blonde ain't in the picture, Pepe ain't going. Okay, then Ace comes up hype, right? And someone asked him a question, I believe it was Austin, about Jeremiah, and it says, when it comes to Jeremiah, he was damned if you do, damned if you don't. Which, true, okay? Jeremiah was exploring Huda, he started liking her, it was a problem. Then he was exploring Iris, then it was a problem. He was exploring Andrea, it was a problem. So it was obvious that Ace had beef with him, and Austin was Jeremiah's closest friend in there. So Austin wanted to know why y'all sent his boy home. And of course, Ace, instead of answers the question directly, twist it and turns it into, Austin, you were sticking around with Amaya, wasting her time when you told us that you weren't going for all that babe stuff and she was moving too fast, but you didn't say nothing to her. And then obviously, Amaya's emotions get heightened too. Like, again, after she was just crying, after calling herself a sensitive gangster. Ace, can we answer the question directly? Do we have to deflect? No, he couldn't, because he knew he didn't have a good answer, because his answer was, oh, I'm jealous of Jeremiah. Ugh. Ace irritates me. A question is asked about Olandria and Taylor, and Olandria has a mini crash out, but I say crash out loosely because I feel like it's valid. When she got sent home originally from the villa for not having a connection, the girls were like, why aren't you crying? She's like, you know what? I gotta be strong. It's okay, yada, yada, yada. She came back. Taylor chose Clark. She still held her tongue. She was upset, but she still believed there was hope for her and Taylor. Then Taylor kept telling her that he was gonna explore things with her, even though he seemed super locked in and physical and stuff with Clark and super into Clark. And Elandria just sat there having hope. And for a minute, it was starting to get a little embarrassing to me. I'm like, girl, that man don't want you. Why can't you see it? But I think, you know, it really came into fruition when Taylor sat up there and declared that he chose Clark over her. And Elandria finally got to say all these feelings that were in her heart. Wow, we've had a connection since the beginning, and you and this girl link up for 3 days, and now it's F me, now it's I don't want no Elandria, now it's blah, blah, blah. So I use crash out loosely. She deserved to get some things off her chest, and Taylor needed to hear it. Taylor has said long ago that he wasn't attracted to her, and Olandria still don't know that, and no one has told her. So she deserved that, and he deserved that. In the next episode, America was putting votes in, talking about who they like the most, who they don't like, who most genuine is, all that jazz. And you know what's funny? One thing about Lil Ace Jr. kicking his feet, swinging in the air, thinking he's on top of everything. He's surely gonna think America thinks the highest of him. But I got news for you, Munchkin. America thinks how I think. And we don't like you that much. It comes to a vote for most genuine man, and Ace puts himself first. You know who was really first? Pepe. And Ace was 9th of 10 people, 10th being Zach, because people didn't like how he dogpiled Amaya. Shelly was 9th for most genuine too. A little surprising to me because I like Shelly, but I think also just her pulling that mess with Huda, not being decisive about Chris or Ace, probably made her fall in the rankings. The couple America wanted to go on vacation with the least was Taylor and Clark, which, yes, we stand for Olandria. I'm black and I'm proud, and y'all are down with the brown, and I love y'all for that. I love y'all for that. The most genuine girl was our sweet little Amaya Papaya. Amaya has come a long way since yelling out with Ace on the dock. She has really grown on me. She is quickly becoming one of my favorite Islanders of that season. And it's really not that hard because not a lot of them are good this season. When it comes to a vote for favorite boy and favorite girl, this leaves Jaden, Grayson, Austin, Andrina, Taylor, and TJ at the bottom. And the Islanders can only save one person. So, it's bye-bye everyone. And Taylor, Mr. Cowboy, gets to stay. In our next episode, we see Chris and Huda's bond strengthening and strengthening and strengthening. Chris and Shelly decide to cut ties. They are no longer interested in each other. And Ace and Shelly are focusing more on each other. Then, random turn of events, because what did I say before? If it ain't snowing, Pepe ain't going. Pepe and Iris start to bond. Iris is widowed after, oh, that's TJ. Iris is widowed after her connection with TJ goes kaput because TJ is sent home. Iris and Pepe run into each other's arms, widower and widow. Amaya and Brian come back together and they start to explore their connection. Now, remember Nick and Sierra became closed off? Yeah. So guess what, guys? Sierra got sent home. Sierra got sent home. Now, one thing I have admired about Love Island producers this season, when it comes to racial slurs, derogatory terms, anything like that, anytime someone has said that, they have sent them home for that. Yulissa got sent home for her use of the N-word. And unfortunately, Sierra decided to use a term that would be derogatory towards the Asian community, and some screenshots of that surfaced, and she was sent home for that too. It is very unfortunate, the things that both Yulissa and Sierra said that led to this. However, I've heard Sierra's apology, her accountability video, and I'm glad that she apologized, but a lot of people are calling ice on her family, are saying just mean things to her. And in turn, you're kind of doing the same thing or worse than what Sierra did in the first place. And so I don't think anybody should fight hate with hate. I think the best way to fight hate is to make it a teachable moment. Be kind to that person so they can then see an example of how it is to respect someone. That's all I will say about that. Nick is clearly devastated, shocked, all that they're told is Sierra's left for a personal reason. But then that does open the door for Nick and Alandria to explore their connection again. And so they dive on into that, and they seem cozy. I mean, the first time after they kissed, Taylor and Sierra were still in the back of each of their minds. So they were like, I think this is just like a friend thing. Like, I really like that kiss, but let's just stay friends. But now Sierra's gone, and Taylor's pretty much locked in with Clark. And so Nick and Alandria can really focus on each other. Now there is a recoupling, and in the recoupling, those new couples are Ace and Shelly, Huda and Chris, Amaya and Brian, Iris and Pepe, Clark and Taylor, and Nick and Alandria. The next episode is the baby challenge, one of my favorite challenges of every season. Our fellow Islanders get to experience what it's like to be parents for the day. Some people get one baby, some people get twins. Chaos ensues, comedy ensues. Ace was really funny in that episode. I may not like him, but he's funny. I can't deny that. But it's not all smiles for everyone, because our mom of the villa, Huda, does not like the way Mr. Chris is tossing around the baby, the colors he's putting on the baby. She's just taking it a little too serious, and I need Huda to remember at the end of the day, that is a doll. That is not your real daughter at home, babes. It's gonna be okay if he tosses the baby a little bit. We're on a game show. We're having fun. And of course, Chris doesn't like that. It starts to get on his nerves. And the Huda cycle is starting to repeat itself. I mean, that's what happens when she doesn't have time to reflect, go to therapy. They'll keep her on the show way longer than she needs to be. This girl her next date needs to be with a therapist as soon as she gets out this villa. Chris later asked her for a kiss, but Huda doesn't want to show PDA, even though she would kiss Jeremiah in front of people. I don't know, it's weird. And so that starts to get on Chris's nerves too. Then later on, I'm not even gonna lie, y'all, I had to smile at this moment. Ace planned so many things for Shelly in the villa, so Shelly wants to return the favor, and she plans a little s'mores date for him. It's so cute. It's so cute. He says how it took him back to a childhood memory, and he's just so thankful. And it was just a very cute moment, y'all. I couldn't help but smile and twist my curls as I watched. Then later on, we have our first couple in the Hideaway, where they get some alone time. Amaya and Brian, and it just seemed like Amaya deserved that after all the emotions she's been through. It's been hard for her to find somebody, and so everyone voted for them to go to the Hideaway, and they get freaky deaky up in the Hideaway. I'm gonna just tell you right now, and it's not even a secret. They be telling everybody, and on the way everybody was cheering, "Eat that kitty, eat that kitty, eat that kitty in the Hideaway." So it's like everyone is very open about what could possibly happen in that Hideaway, and they don't shy from telling us that it did indeed happen the next morning. They weren't the only ones getting freaky deaky. Iris and Pepe, they pulling a Nick and Sierra. They getting freaky under the sheets right next to the beds of their Islanders. I don't know for sure, but you could tell somebody was sitting on top of somebody under the sheets. Now this issue with Chris and Huda come back up, and Chris is like, "Girl, how can you have sex with me, but you're afraid to kiss me in front of people? Usually it's the other way around. That doesn't make sense to me." And honestly, that doesn't make sense to me either, but Huda's reasoning is, "Oh, well, I don't want to get too physical and blah, blah, blah," but it's like, you've already had sex. It doesn't get more physical than that. I don't think you can have sex and then like regress the kissing. I don't know, that's a little weird. And she's trying to say she's trying to do it different than what she did with Jeremiah, but it's kind of the same. So I don't really know what she's going for, and that's slowly them coming apart. It's not looking good for them, really. And Chris seems like he wants to say more, but, Huda gets up and walks away in the middle of him talking. Even after cutting him off a bunch of times, he has to ask, can I speak? Can I speak? Can I speak? And it's just, yeah, they not lasting much longer, I can tell you that. Clark and Taylor have a little mini date where they become exclusive. Closed off, baby. Taylor and Clark reach closed off point as well. And what that is welcomed with? A vote home. They go home. America voted them as the worst couple or the least favorite couple. So closed off right back into America. Congratulations. We'll see how long it lasts. Honestly, not sad about that. Tired of them. Y'all can get off my screen. It's all smoke towards Taylor, though. It's not directly towards you, Clark. I just don't like how he dragged Alandria on for so long. In the next episode, Huda attempts to apologize to Chris for her wrongdoing, but she doesn't say sorry. Heavy on the attempt. There's really never a sorry. Another fave-ish goes to the Hideaway. Ace and Shelly. They get up and they get dressed and their friends cheer them on, that same cheer I sung before, and they spend the night in the Hideaway where they decide to make it exclusive. They become closed off as well. Another couple headed towards closed offedness. The next episode is Family Day. Everybody's family comes to visit them for a few minutes, give their thoughts on their current couple or anything else they've seen them go through this year. And later on, Ace and Shelly get sent home. Shocking, honestly, because I think Ace and Shelly had definitely grown on me as a couple. And I think a lot of people still planned on them being our Love Island Season 7 winners. And so for them to go home and for Huda and Chris to still be here and they don't even want to talk to each other. One's getting up in the middle of them leaving. That just didn't make any sense. Nick's family introduces the term Nicolandria, which has been widely used on social media, but they didn't know about it. And yeah. We made it to the final episode where we discover our winners. We've got some final dates that happened that day. And of all the final dates, Huda and Chris's date stands out. Let me tell you why. Gorgeous setting, okay? There's water, there's a little riser, and there's a table on top. And they walk in the water. Chris carries her over to the water. They head to the table. They talk. They're trying to make amends. For a minute, you think that it might go well. And then you realize this is Huda we're talking about. Chris is becoming Jeremiah 2.0. This ain't working out, okay? Huda, she lacks accountability. They're knee-deep in an argument when a woman comes over to the edge of this cliff to sing Moon River to them. It's supposed to be just a beautiful romantic moment, but I'm sure she feels like she's interrupting something. I'm sure she could cut the tension with glass. It's hella awkward, and you can tell Chris is over this mess. He asked Huda, okay, so what do you want to do? And I'm reading Chris, and it gives Chris is ready to give up, which, Chris, I would be too, okay? But I don't think he wants to say it. I think he wants Huda to be the one to say it. And so she's sitting there thinking, and then she finally says, I think we should just be friends. Chris goes, I already know. I was just waiting on you to say it. Bang. He doesn't do the bang, but it felt like he should have added that in there. He walks off. She starts crying. He comes back. Why are you crying? She's upset. She's like, I didn't think my experience would go this way, yada, yada, yada. Then he's like, okay, well, let's go. Remember, there's water. And Chris carried her. And so Huda goes, you're not going to carry me back? He goes, no, I'm not going to carry you back. You can walk, basically. So she gets that cup. She fills it up again one more time. And she walks pitiful, alcohol in hand, shoes in the other, walking through the water at the closing of their date. That is the worst season finale date I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that. Usually everyone's so lovey-dovey, and this just was not giving that. And we get to the final ceremony where we discover our winners. And I'm cool whether Nick and Landria win or Amaya and Brian win, because I like them both, as long as Huda and Chris don't win, because that's not even deserved, okay? That's not even deserved. So thankfully, Huda and Chris, I believe, come in third place. Iris and Pepe for fourth. Nick and Landria is second, which means our winners were Amaya and Brian! Amaya Papaya! That's a win for the Dominicans. That's a win for New York. That's a win for the Amaya and Papaya fans. I'm so happy that at least Amaya could be a winner in the end. This was one of the worst seasons I've ever seen of Love Island USA. And I say that because it was not Love Island. It was Friend Island. A lot of people decided to keep their friends there. But you know, hey, if Sierra had never saved Amaya and sent Hannah home, we wouldn't have Amaya Papaya as our winner. So everything happens for a reason. Until next time, until the next show, until Love Island USA returns. But there is a reunion happening August 25th. I can cover that. But until then, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me yap about Love Island USA. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.